Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is the show that's, well, engineered specifically for you. Our mission is pretty straightforward. We take your sources, can be articles, research, maybe even just your notes, and we really pull out the most important bits of knowledge, the key insights. Yeah, we're here to give you like a genuine shortcut to being properly well-informed, hopefully with a few surprising facts, maybe a bit of humor, just to keep you hooked. So today we're doing a deep dive into the very latest global news. We've got this curated list, the top 10 global news items as of July 2025, just from the last 12 hours or so. It's really a snapshot of, well, a very busy world right now. And our goal isn't just to read headlines. No, we want to actually unpack them, connect some of those crucial dots, and, highlight exactly why this stuff matters to your understanding of what's going on. Okay, so let's kick things off. There's this fascinating economic development. A really big surge in rare earth magnet exports from China to the U.S. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty positive for supply chains, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the scale is quite something. We're not just talking a small increase. Chinese shipments of these magnets to the U.S., they just soared 660% in June compared to May. That's up to 353 metric tons.
Wow, 660%.
Yeah. And this surge, it came right after a trade deal in June that specifically eased up on the export license restrictions, which was, a critical move. It directly relieved some temporary supply constraints for really vital industries. Think EVs, wind turbines. They depend on these magnets.
Right.
The previous restrictions, they were mostly administrative hurdles, really, but they were causing some significant bottlenecks.
Okay, so that's one piece, targeted relief, sounds good. But then, sort of zooming out, we've also got this broader, maybe more cautious warning coming from the IMF about global economic stability. How do those two things fit together? I mean, is this localized good news kind of swimming against a more pessimistic tide?
Yeah. That is the core question, isn't it? I mean, if we connect this to the bigger picture, yeah, the IMF is planning to revise its global growth outlook downwards soon, end of the month. And they're specifically flagging that these persistent trade tensions, they're still a major threat to global economic stability.
So even with this one deal?
Exactly. So while we see a specific, positive deal easing one bottleneck for rare earths, the IMF's basically reminding us that the overall landscape, trade relations generally, still pretty fraught. It suggests that, yeah, you can fix individual issues, but these systemic tensions, they're still weighing things down globally.
And we're actually seeing the real-world impact of those broader stresses already, right? Like in Kenya, it's not just some abstract forecast.
No, not at all. Kenya is a really clear example of how these big macro issues filter down to specific countries. They're facing higher borrowing costs now, tighter credit conditions. And that's a direct result of these global tariff-driven market stresses. It makes investors perceive more risk, right? And that can actually choke off the vital investment inflows they need.
So yeah, trade disputes between, say, the U.S. and China.
Right. What seems like distant disputes can directly hike up the cost of doing business or even just living for ordinary people in a place like Kenya. It's just a stark reminder of how interconnected everything is economically.
Okay. Now, shifting gears a little, but still in the economic realm, a pretty big milestone for crypto. Seems like it's not just for the enthusiasts anymore.
Indeed. Yeah, the cryptocurrency market, it's now past this remarkable $4 trillion valuation milestone.
4 trillion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one really striking takeaway here is what this reflects. It's about its expanding role in professional portfolios. We're talking institutional investors, hedge funds, established financial players. They're not seeing crypto as just some fringe asset anymore.
Right.
They're integrating it. It's becoming a legitimate part of their investment strategies, albeit, still a volatile one.
Sure.
But it definitely signals a kind of maturation of the market and a real shift in how traditional finance is viewing these digital assets.
Okay, let's pivot now. This is where it gets really interesting on the geopolitical front, starting with a pretty significant decision from the U.S. about a global health agreement, the WHO's proposed pandemic accord, designed to streamline responses to future crises. Hit a snag.
That's right, a big snag. The U.S. has formally turned it down, this WHO Global Pandemic Accord. The agreement, it would have required nations to dedicate, I think it was 20% of resources to pandemic preparedness.
20%.
Yeah, but the U.S. cited sovereignty concerns for rejecting it. And, well, this really brings up that fundamental question, doesn't it? How do nations balance their own autonomy, their control over health policy, with the frankly, undeniable need for global cooperation when you face health crises that just don't care about borders.
Yeah, that tension isn't going away.
No, it highlights that ongoing push and pull between national interest and, collective security.
And speaking of global cooperation, or maybe redefining it, the G20 looks like it's set for a potential revamp. When the U.S. takes over the presidency for 2026, sound like a big shift in priorities.
It absolutely does, yeah. When the U.S. takes the G20 presidency later this year, looking ahead to 2026, the plan is apparently to narrow the agenda, sharpen it back to a core financial focus.
This finance.
Well, the core of it. It means potentially dropping some existing working groups, the ones on health, energy, climate change.
Yeah.
Now, some might see that as a step back, for tackling global problems together, but the rationale seems to be about making the G20 more efficient, more impactful maybe, by concentrating on what it was originally set up for.
Which is economic and financial coordination.
Exactly, rather than spreading itself thin across a whole wide array of global issues where getting consensus is, let's face it, much harder.
Okay. Moving to another area of international tension, the conflict in Ukraine. It keeps evolving, and particularly the drone warfare aspect. The numbers you mentioned are quite something.
They certainly are. Russia's military claimed, in just a 12-hour period, mind you, to have destroyed 142 Ukrainian drones.
142.
And 27 of those were intercepted near Moscow. It just underscores how intense and how increasingly sophisticated this drone warfare has become. It's such a clear indicator of how technology isn't just shaping modern combat, but also posing these huge defensive challenges, especially for cities, for critical infrastructure.
Yeah, the battlefield isn't just on the front lines anymore.
Exactly. It highlights that shift from traditional lines to potentially anywhere.
Right. Okay, finally for this section, let's look at Japan. Crucial upper house polls happening today, seen as a big test for Prime Minister Ishiba.
Yeah, these elections, they're widely being framed as a direct referendum on Ishiba's leadership and maybe more crucially, his whole fiscal strategy. The current polling suggests his ruling coalition might actually lose its majority.
Which could cause ripples.
Definitely. It's raising considerable concern among international investors because, a weakened majority could easily lead to political instability, maybe policy paralysis, and it just raises questions about the continuity of Japan's economic direction. The outcome is definitely going to influence market sentiment about the world's third largest economy.
Okay. So we've seen the world stage is just incredibly busy, politics, economics, but nature also keeps reminding us of its power, doesn't it? Starting with a major earthquake off Russia.
Yes, a powerful one.
Yeah.
7.4 magnitude earthquake struck off Russia's Kamchatka coast.
7.4 is significant.
Very. It immediately triggered a regional tsunami alert. Russian emergency services are, understandably, closely monitoring the situation. An earthquake that strong in such a seismically active area always carries risks. Aftershocks, coastal impacts.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, tragically, South Korea, grappling with just devastating floods and landslides, a really stark reminder of extreme weather.
It really is. Heavy rainfall in South Korea's Gapyeong area, and surrounding regions too, caused significant landslides, terrible floods. Tragically, it resulted in 14 deaths, and last we heard, 12 people were still missing.
Oh, terrible.
And what makes it even harder is this happened just before an incoming heat wave. So it's compounding the weather challenges. It just underscores the severe and often multifaceted impact these extreme weather events have on people and infrastructure.
So after all that,
Yeah.
what does this really mean for you, listening in? We've kind of navigated this rapid-fire tour, haven't we? Economic surges, geopolitical plays, the stark reality of natural disasters. Hopefully you now have a more distilled, maybe clearer, perhaps more nuanced understanding of what's actually happening around the world right now.
Yeah, and I think one striking thing when you look at all these headlines together is just how deeply interconnected these events are, even when they seem separate. A specific trade deal, it impacts global supply chains. A shift in G20 priorities affects international talks on big issues. An election in one country affects investor confidence globally. And of course, natural disasters disrupt whole regions, ripple through economies. Each piece, often in unexpected ways, contributes to this larger, constantly shifting global story.
Right. So considering this incredibly wide range of things we've just touched on, shifting alliances, economic worries, the undeniable power of nature, maybe something for you to think about is this. What's the one aspect of this global interconnectedness that feels most critical for you to understand right now?
As nations try to navigate, both their own interests and these really complex shared challenges, just something to ponder as you go about your day.